Hey, we have made some very cool improvements to the combat system that I did in the last devlog. So if you have not watched that video, go ahead and watch that one so you know how to be caught up with what we're going to be talking about in here. So we are recreating the combat system of For the King, and I'm going to like change it up and stuff for like what the game is going to eventually turn into. But for right now, we're just kind of recreating the basics of how that system works. And I'll go ahead and I'll launch the preview. And if you remember last time, we only had one enemy in the game. So now we've got the beast and the goblin in here. And if I close this and I open it back up, well, we got the same thing again. But RNG is not my friend today. But okay, but look, they switched places. And maybe in a second we'll even get two beasts, or we'll get two goblins, or, goblin and a beast, whatever. But all this is to say is that we now have multiple instances of the game choosing different enemies out of the pool to be randomly spawned into this one little thing. And I'm gonna refine this over time, but for right now, I'm gonna be done working on the combat system, and I want to start working on the overworld stuff because I need to start setting failure states and a whole bunch of other stuff that I kind of need the other side of the game to facilitate some of that stuff. But let's go ahead and check out what we've got going on here. So the first thing, when you're only working with one instance of an enemy, all you really have to do is press the attack button, and it knows to hit which enemy because there's only one of them, right? So I had to figure out how to get the game to target enemies. And this took me maybe about, 3 or 4 hours to really kind of get the hang of. But now, if I click on these, it doesn't do anything. And that's because I don't have a target selected. So what I did is I set a variable to be able to highlight the different enemies. And so when the variable is true, it's a Boolean. I get this nice white outline, and when it's false, you don't have the outline there. And I also was able to set enemy hit points. So now the beast has 30 hit points, the goblin has 25. And when I press the strength button, boom, I roll 2 successes. He goes down 10 hit points, and we'll take him down to 5, and we'll kill him, and he's removed from the game. Now, what I don't have right now are 2 different enemy attacks. They're all kind of working as one. I haven't gotten that set up quite yet, which I might tackle before Overworld, but I honestly kind of forgot about that until I started recording. But, here we are. But now everything's dead, and, there's nothing left to do because, there's no enemies on the battlefield. So let's look at our combat events. So now, when we're doing our enemy picking, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to place the player at the player spawn. And for each instance of the enemy spawn, we are going to do the same kind of thing that we were doing for the object picking, but we're just repeating the instance for each of those spawns. Because now, if we look at these hidden stations, you'll see that we have 2 of them. And I eventually want to go ahead and do an external layout and be like, hey, when combat is initiated in the overworld, which is why I need the overworld to start kind of doing some of this stuff, I want you to pick from like a 1 enemy spawn layout to a 2 enemy spawn layout to a 3 enemy spawn layout, and then you can kind of select and like populate it from there. And I might even go so as far as to like have different regions, which would be nice eventually. And then based on those regions, you'll populate, or maybe I'll even just make a bunch of different layouts where it's like, hey, this is like a bandit encounter. This is a goblin encounter. This is a pack of wild dogs, and which would kind of make the enemy spawning moot. But it's cool either way that I'm learning this stuff. So I'm not really too concerned about what the eventual the combat enemy picking thing is going to end up being. But when we go back here, let me go ahead and hide those stations because odds are I'm probably going to want to go back into there at some point. And we're going to not enable the outline because none of them are picked, because right here, the variable of is targeted is true. We enable that outline, and the variable of is targeted is false, means that they are not. And that's more of a visual indicator for the player and for me to know that the enemy is targeted. Because when we When we press the buttons, we now make sure that that it's all true, so that we can't just spam the attack buttons and it's not applying to anything. Because when we are damaging enemies, the variable of is targeted as true. That's how the game knows how to, apply the damage to the enemy. So I'm sure that there's a better way to do that, but it's working for me right now, and I'm having no issues with it so far. So if it doesn't need to change, all the better. What else have we kind of changed? So we also have, I don't think this is really linked up to anything yet, but when we're clicking on the enemy, we are picking the enemy that is nearest to the cursor, which is going to be the one that it's on, because the cursor has to be in touch with the enemy according to that enemy group. And we're changing the variable selected target ID to enemy ID. I think this is mostly just going to be like for future proofing, just so I kind of already have that there, because I was having a lot of issues with the targeting system, and then everything just kind of clicked, and I was like, okay, it's good. We can just kind of set it and forget it for a little bit. So if I need to actually start applying damage by ID, I can do that later. Which, by the way, Gdevelop, if you're freaking watching this, I would really love to be able to just go apply player applied stats, attack points of damage to enemy with ID. Because it's like, we can do like, like, hey, we got the random in range 100, or, we can do it at these positions plus, like, why can't we do like an enemy group with like IDs? Because it's so easy to set up like the spawning with like, hey, when we actually, I don't think I even covered that last time. When we when we pick them, we're changing the variable ID of enemies, and we're setting it to like 1 or 2 or 3, and then we're adding 1 to the enemy ID generation, so that we're doing that. Dude, it would be so much easier just to target things if we could just select, hey, if this enemy's ID is 1, apply the damage to the one that says 1. It would have made things a lot easier for me, because that was my original idea, and apparently Gdevelop just doesn't have the ability to support that in the way that I wanted it to be done, and the other ways that I was seeing seemed a little bit too complicated and weren't quite making sense to me. So if you could do that, that'd be great. Thanks. I'd really appreciate that, and I probably didn't explain it very well. But if you could just decipher my autistic ramblings, that would be fantastic. So let's keep it going. We have the health bars in the enemy ID. I'm caught. We have the health bars linked to enemies now. So thanks to Winstreak and their lovely tutorial on being able to link health bars and enemies and stuff, we now have all of them set to the correct thing. They are displaying, they are tracking separately, which was an issue when I first started them in, because it was like, hey, we're attacking, but like, even though I'm only attacking one of them, it's applying to both health bars, and it was really annoying. So now what we're doing is at the beginning of the scene, and we're repeating for each instance of enemy, we are creating a health bar at the enemy point health bar, which if we go to like Goblin or something and we look at its points, we now have a health bar, which is right here below our enemy, and we have that set to both the Goblin and the Beast. If you'll look right down there, and those are the same. And we're going to change the position to be, a little bit less. I couldn't get it exactly right, because if I halved it by 2, it just like fucking flew off to the other side. So -40 works for now. I'm sure that I'll change that a little bit later. We are changing the size to about a quarter, because you can't change the scale of resource bars for some reason. I don't know why. I'm sure that there's a reason on the back end for that. We are then linking the enemy to that health bar, and we are changing the values to be in line with each one, because when we link them, it is able to track the values that we already have set for the like the health variables and things like that. So all in all, it doesn't seem like there was a ton of work put into this since the last video, but trust me when I say that all of the stuff that we added in took just as long, if not longer, than the stuff we had last time. So, I mean, it's pretty sweet to just be able to have both. Dude, look at that. Perfect. Just to have everything completely locked in for combat right now. And I think once we start getting in some more of the travel and the overworld stuff, I also tried linking the external layouts. I made this little 3-pip external layout because I was trying to turn these into external layouts, but for whatever reason, actually, I'll go ahead. Let me copy and paste this. We'll deactivate that and we'll delete these real quick, and I'll show you what I mean. So if we go, let me delete that one because that had that issue last time. So if we go down here and we go to other actions and we go down here, we go to external layouts, we create 3-pip at roll icon station X, and then we create one at roll station Y. And now the Z position, I'm pretty sure, is just the ordering, so I have it set at 0. I tried it at 100 also just to see if it changed anything, but I think this might be my issue. But when the cursor is in touch with the button and we trigger it once, we're trying to create the object from the external layout named 3-pip. And all this is 3 roll icons at, 0, 0. Let's see what it does, because it wasn't doing anything when I had it there. Because like we're still creating all of these. So, I mean, the cursor's on there, but nothing's really happening. And I think what the issue is that when you create objects like this, like you usually do, you're able to select the layer. So like if I wanted to put one of these on the base layer, I don't, because I want them attached to the UI, it would show up. But we can't select the layer when we create objects from an external layout. And I even tried doing like a change layer for the roll icons and moving them to the UI, but it doesn't really do anything, or at least because I imagine it's being created way off screen somewhere, excuse me. But I don't know how to get them to actually be where I want. So I think I'm on the right path with this, but it would be very nice just to have this little layer, just put it on the UI, man. That's all I want. It would be so much easier just to do it the way like this, but just for external layouts. So Gdevelop, if you're watching, Wesley, if you're watching, tell Gdevelop to do it that way because it would be easier for me. So, I don't know, man. Next thing that I'm going to start tackling, the next devlog is going to be on procedural generation. And I'm going to try to do the hex crawl because I was looking at the actions and stuff. Let me go ahead and I'll delete this and re-enable that. I was looking at the hex crawl, and like if we look over here, we can do snap to grid, and you can do it with 2D hexes. So I think this is going to be really cool. There is a very good series by Retro Game Logic. So it's one of the two. That guy is super smart and very good at making very entertaining and fun tutorials. So I'm going to follow one of his to try and get the procedural generation that I want up and running. I'm definitely going to have to make some major tweaks for the ideas that I have in mind for this game. But if I can get it up and running, that should be the next devlog. So if you're interested in looking at how a complete noob at I'll say I'm a rookie. I'm a rookie now. I just recently won a game jam, technically. So if you want to see how a rookie developer tackles procedural generation in Gdevelop, drop a little like, drop a little subscribe, and come check out the channel. There's a lot of really cool stuff on here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye for now.